Well, good morning, little goose. Not as nice as it was out yesterday, but this snow pile still hanging on for dear life, even though it was in the 70s for 2 days in a row. And rainy. You should have been washed away last night. Look at all the puddles. Wow. Gotta give you credit. You are a fighter. Wow, that was a long Monday. My goodness. And it was cloudy and dreary all day, which didn't help. Hello, sunshine. Speaking of cloudy and dreary, just got a little spot of sunshine there. And it was just kind of one of those days today. It just dragged on forever and felt like I was wading in quicksand. But now we are done, and now it is time to move on to the topic of the evening, which is going to be, well, I don't know yet. I'm going to have to figure that out in a minute here. Well, hello there, and welcome to another beautiful night for an adventure from the couch here on Tommy Travels the Second. And really, up until about a few minutes ago, I had no idea what I was going to do for content here tonight. It's just been one of those Mondays. And I figured that since we didn't do a movie roulette yesterday, this would be a good night for a Netflix roulette, which works out perfect because I recently saw a movie called The Dirt, which is an origin story of the band Motley Crue. And it was a pretty interesting movie, so that's what we're going to talk about here tonight. So if you are brand new to this channel, go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on a thing. And I will see you right after this. This movie, The Dirt, is actually based on a best-selling book from 2001, authored by the band Motley Crue, and it's also called The Dirt. And it's about their origin story, how they all got together, and takes you down the road from when they were just starting out to their big fame and success, and how that affected all of the members of the band in different ways. With drugs and with women and with partying, all the stuff that you would expect a rock band to encounter along its path to success. And so that's kind of what this movie is about. There was several attempts before 2019 to make a movie out of this book, but nothing really ever panned out. Network TV couldn't really tell the story in the way the band would want to portray it, which is the real and gritty, the dirt. Network TV can't show the dirt. And so it never really happened. And then along came Netflix. That gave them a lot more freedom and leeway to tell the story in the way that they wanted. Just to start this off, though, I do want to mention one thing. If you are not a fan of nudity, drug use, partying, violent, wild behavior, if that's the kind of movie you just don't like to watch, no matter what it's about, this is not going to be the movie for you, because it's called The Dirt, and they definitely do show it. They've got the freedom to show nudity and a lot of that stuff, and they certainly do in this movie. But if you can get past that and just analyze it for, you know, this is a real situation, this is a look at the inside of the band as they were going through those times, then it is actually a pretty captivating movie. But I just want to knock that one out up front. If you're not a fan of the nudity and things like that, this isn't going to be for you. Also, I want to say that you don't have to be a super fan of Motley Crue to enjoy this movie either. I know that I liked Motley Crue growing up. I remember jamming out to Smoking in the Boys' Room, watching a band play or something like that. But I was not a I gotta go to the Motley Crue concert kind of guy, and I didn't know too much about them at all. Just some of their hit songs, and I liked the band, but I didn't really know much about them. And so it was actually better for me, I think, because it really gave me an opportunity to learn a little bit about the backstory and how that all came together, because they really did have a big impact of music during that time. And we'll get into that part a little bit later. And if you are a fan of Motley Crue, you're going to like the fact that this was cast very well. At the end, they showed the cast members versus the real members of Motley Crue, like they do in a lot of these kind of documentary movies. And they really did a good job of pulling guys that really captured their characters well. I know Tommy Lee I was particularly impressed with, because he's somebody that I've seen a lot outside of Motley Crue and his personality, and this guy did a really good job of capturing that personality. And I like the fact that they intentionally chose not to use big names to fill these roles, because the last thing that you want in a movie like this is to think, oh, Tommy Lee, that's this guy, this big name actor that I know from all these other things. No, you just want to feel like that's Motley Crue right there when they were young, just getting going. And so not having the other name association or big names associated with it was a smart move. And that's part of what I really liked about the movie. One of my favorite things about this movie is that you would get narration from all of the different band members as you go along. Like, it starts off with Nikki Sixx as a child. He lived in a very abusive type of a family, which I'm not going to go into all the details because you can just watch the movie and find out. But he winds up on the street at a very young age and is sort of in a position in life where he has to make it. You know, this is no joke for him. This is his life. It's kind of do or die for him. And then it switches over to Tommy Lee, and you get narration from his side of things, where he's at. And they kind of go through that with all the main band members and throughout the movie. And so you sort of get the whole picture through the stories of each individual. And I really like that style, because it's not just this paint-by-the-numbers kind of script. I say paint by the numbers quite a bit during these movie reviews, because I run into so many that are like that, especially with these kind of stories where it's an origin story of a band or a singer or a comedian or anybody. It's Ray Charles, same kind of thing. It's just like, here, this is when he started, then he got famous, and then this bad thing happened, and then this is where they're at now. But this gives you some better inside perspective by hearing it from each individual and their point of view. So all of the members of Motley Crue were playing at varying levels of success out there in LA. There was a few clubs out there that were very popular at the time, and they were in different bands doing different things. And finally, one day, Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx got together and decided to form their own band. And then that starts the search for Vince Neil and Mick Mars. And once they were finally together, they decided to make something big happen. And that was to put on an arena-style show in a club. And really, you know, if they're going to do it, they wanted to do it right, and they wanted to do it big. And that's what they set out to do. And also, they were all talented guys. They could write some really good music, and they certainly did. They had a manager that kind of saw their way through the very beginning times into arena shows, and that's when they started making some money. And you find out they are party animals. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but trust me, they are. They were. I would have to say one of my big issues with the movie, though, still falls in terms of the writing. I liked the fact that they did the different narration from different angles. That was really cool. But there were some points where you could tell that things didn't really go down the way they're showing it in the movie. You could tell Hollywood was involved with how the story was told in certain parts. And if it's at a point where you don't even know much about the band, but you can just tell by the way it's written that it's Hollywood and not real life, then that's not good. And so that loses points because of that part of the writing aspect for me. I started off this video by saying, if you are not a fan of nudity and some of the things that rock bands get into on and off stage, then this probably isn't going to be the movie for you. And I was able to get through it. Obviously, I'm doing a Netflix Roulette on the movie, but it was just so graphic in some areas. It does lose a point for that, because we get where you're coming from. You're one of the wildest, craziest rock bands of the time, and you partied hard like you meant it, and you want to be able to show that in this movie. And I totally get that. But also, we know you were one of the hardest partying rock bands out there, and we understand what that meant. We don't need to see every nook and cranny of the graphic things going on. I guess all I'm saying is some of the stuff could have been implied a little bit better, and we could just say, yep, okay, I get the idea, and not show some of the stuff that you showed in it. So this movie loses some points for the writing in certain spots, and also the very graphic nature of some of the scenes that they showed in there. And then it does gain a point back, though, because of one specific scene where they forgot what town they were in. And Nikki Sixx says, well, can you blame us? This is a typical day. And then they take you through 24 hours of his day. This is what he does. This is when he gets up. And then this is what happens. And it goes through a whole entire day. And it was really interesting to see how that all works out. And then when you imagine, wow, can you imagine doing that repeatedly, day after day? Most people wouldn't survive 24 hours of that. And so that gave me something to think about, and it picks up a point. So overall, this movie is a 7 on a scale of Eat, Pray, Love to 10. And as I said, if you're not into the graphic nature of nudity, drug use, things like that, stay away from it. If that's totally fine for you, then this is definitely a movie that you'll want to check out. It does have a good story. The writing is a little shaky in spots, but overall I think they did a great job of covering the band, and it was very, very well cast. Well, you guys, this has been another successful Netflix Roulette here on Tommy Travels the Second. And we covered the movie Dirt tonight, and it was a 7 on a scale of Eat, Pray, Love to 10. And if you guys liked what you saw here tonight, go ahead and hit like on my YouTube channel. While you're at it, go ahead and hit subscribe and the little bell notification next to it so you can be the first to know when a new adventure comes out. And thank you guys so much for the support that you've given me so far. And until next time, I hope to catch you on the flip side. P.S. Back in my day, smoking was allowed in school. They had a smoking area for the kids, where kids could smoke outside. Not going to be seeing that come back anytime soon. This movie, The Dirt, is actually based on a best-selling book.